Hello, everyone. I am Matt Williamson. And as usual on these night games, the buzzer just hit zero like a second ago. And all in all, a pretty miserable loss, that's for sure. But boy, did they make it interesting at the end. I put much of this loss on the offense, although it got better at the end. But boy, the offense was really lacking against a very, very bad defense. And I thought Wilson in general was poor. I thought some of the play calling was poor. And let's just start from the top, though. I mean, the defense was Swiss cheese to start the opening drive. There's no question about that. And these early holes that this team puts themselves in are really frustrating, and the way that they are constructed as a football team, they're just not very well equipped to get out of. And frankly, there's no way around it that these slow starts on both sides of the ball reflect very poorly on the coaching staff and Tomlin, of course, who's in charge of the coaching staff. But I will say one of my biggest takeaways from this, though, was it about two-thirds of the way through the game, Bengals had double the Steelers' time of possession, and they only had 16 points. And the Steelers' defense made a lot of plays today. Joe Burrow made a lot of plays too, but the Bengals' the Steelers' offense was dormant for so much of this game until the end. And time of possession again was a massive determining factor. We've been saying that all along. They have to win time possession. They got blown out in that department. So as we do, we'll run through the halftime stats, some halftime observations, go through the final stats and some observations off of that, and then final thoughts. And tomorrow, with a really bad slate of NFL games going on, by the way, I think the Steelers are going to Baltimore next week. Probably on Saturday, since both teams played Saturday, but who knows? And I don't think that bodes well at all. But root for the Raiders, I guess. But the Steelers were losing 13-7 at the half. And in some ways, they were lucky to be that close. There's no question. Because the offense was really bad. Burrow was tremendous. Boy, I almost have to take a second for this guy. I mean, the beating he took yet again, as he does every week, and doing it on purpose and not keeping extra guys in to protect so he can have more options to throw to, and extending plays and the accuracy, which the accuracy fell off a little bit as the game went on. They also lost Higgins. But man, Burrow is a phenomenal football player. But at the half, he was 21 of 27 for 153 yards, a touchdown and a turnover and an interception. Where Wilson was 4 of 8 for 45 yards at the half. Ugh. Najee had 9 runs for 35 and a touchdown at that point. And at this point, I'm like, Pickens has 1 target, 1 catch, 0 yards. Surely they'll get him involved early and often in the second half, right? Gesicki and Chase each had 5 catches for 38 and 41. Both teams had 2 sacks. Each team had a turnover. And they both were 0 for 1 on 4th downs, which you guys know I count as a turnover. So those things were kind of equal. Bengals had 11 first downs compared to 8 for the Steelers, despite starting really hot. And on 3rd downs, the Steelers were 2 of 5. Bengals were 3 of 7. This sounds closer than it was, by the way. Bengals had run 38 plays, though, compared to 26. And had 172 yards compared to 75, and averaged 4.5 yards per play, which isn't that great, compared to 2.9 for the Steelers, though, against a terrible Bengals defense. 27 Steelers passing yards compared to 145 at this point. Only 2 Steeler penalties for 10 yards, 6 for 25 for the Bengals. But time of possession was 1949 to 10-11, basically 2-1. After a half a play. You can't do that. And it just felt like the offense, the play calling, were once again just doing, like, their whole goal was to get the 3rd downs, and then there's those three straight plays to end the half for the Steelers offense where every one of the plays was under review. Nope, short. All right, surely they'll pick up the first down on this one. Under review, short. Under review, short. And I don't even blame Tomlin for going for it there. You got to be able to pick up half a yard. And they didn't get screwed. They were short 3 times in a row by very little amount. It was huge. And at this point, too, it got a little better, but I'm going, man, these guys are causing fumbles. They're causing big plays, but they can't recover a fumble still. How many games in a row can they go with causing fumbles without recovering them? Again, this is at halftime. But then I'm saying, boy, the defense is starting to really make plays here. The Bengals had some really good starting field position, a couple plays, but other than the first drive of the game, which I understand is absolutely a tone setter, it was the only touchdown you allowed going in the half at that point. You were tackling really well, and I thought they tackled well throughout this game. And that opening drive, I marveled at how fast Mahomes got the ball out of his hands against the Steelers 2 games ago. That opening drive was 2.05 seconds time to throw for Burrow. That's like just throwing darts. I mean, that was so precise. That's so hard to do for a quarterback. And he made it look so easy that I'm sure a lot of you will just blame the defense. And that was a miserable opening drive. But what Burrow did getting the ball out of his hands with unbelievable precision, hardly anyone else can do that. I mean, I'm just telling you, that's a wow. And Cam had 2 swats in the first half. So as you know, they end up losing this game 19-17 in what turned into dramatic fashion. Burrow ends up 37 for 46, 277, 1-1. Really impressive. He was better than those numbers. Russ was 17 to 31, 148 yards passing against the Bengals. 1 touchdown, no interceptions. It seemed like Najee contributed more in this, but 12 carries for 36 yards and a touchdown, 4 catches for 20. I have to wonder, why wasn't Warren featured more than Najee? I mean, that seemed like from the start that they were going to feature Najee, and I don't understand it. Herbert, their running back, was fine, 20 for 69, but nobody really ran the ball particularly well. Pickens, he had miserable drop after miserable drop after not being involved. I guess he was barking at a fan too. Like, was he totally disengaged? Like, what's going on in this dude's head? Cost him bad. I mean, his stat line to end the game was 6 targets, 1 catch, 0 yards. But maybe the biggest play of all was he roasts that corner and Wilson throws it to the outside shoulder on an in-breaking deep route that could have been the win. Like, what's going on here? Chase was really good, but they kind of limited him too. 10 for 96 and a touchdown. Tackled the catch on him pretty well. Gesicki, 8 for 68. Hendrickson, 3.5 sacks, and at timely times, obviously. Bengals had 21 first downs compared to 16. Neither team was good on third down, and they both kind of got there more than you would think. It didn't shock me the Steelers snapped the ball in 12 times on third down, only converting 4. But the Bengals were only 1 better. They were 5 out of 13. Steelers were 0 for 2 on fourth downs, which I count as turnovers. Ouch. And the Bengals were 0 for 1. Bengals ran 71 plays compared to 58, but had 314 yards compared to 193 and averaged 4.4 yards per play, which, folks, if you told me 3 hours ago the Steelers were going to hold the Bengals to 4.4 yards per play, I would have taken it. But the Steelers only generated 3.3 yards per play against this defense. That's so bad. Even getting hot sort of late in the game, sort of. 4 sacks apiece for both teams. Neither team ran the ball well. 74 for the Steelers, 68 for Cincy. Red zone, the Steelers were 2 for 2. It's a bright spot. Bengals were only 1 of 4. Penalties weren't that big a deal, but it seemed like they would have affected Cincy more than this. The Bengals took 6 for 25 only. Steelers 3 for 20. And in the end, the Steelers turned the ball over once, plus those 2 fourth down conversions. Bengals turned the ball over twice, plus their fourth down conversion. So basically 3-3, but it seemed like it hurt the Steelers more than them. Time of possession, though, 38 minutes exactly to 22 minutes exactly. 38 to 22. I give this defense credit. I mean, I thought there was late in the game, well, late third quarter, I thought, man, it's over. This defense is being asked to do way too much, and they are going against a really good offense, and the Bengals started kind of killing clock and running the ball a little bit more, and defense kept showing up. And I know that there were some bad things with this defense, but considering who you played, and yeah, the first drive was really bad, I don't think the defense has very much blame here. I mean, they made a lot of big plays, a lot of swatted balls, a lot of pressure. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and ability to watch the games as they happen. With the largest selections of odds on everything from football, NBA and college basketball, NHL to UFC and MMA. Head to BetOnline today to get on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here. So again, tomorrow's podcast will be much more in-depth. I'll rewatch the game. I'll do a lot more research. There'll be more in-depth stats. I'll be a little less emotional, but that's now 19 straight opening drives for the Steelers without a touchdown. 19. These are like Matt Canada kind of numbers. Like, why do the games have to start so terrible? And they're not explosive enough like a Bengals offense to make up for that. I mean, that's a huge problem right now. I thought Wilson for much of this game was a real problem. And we'll get into this next week or after they're eliminated. I don't know if you can bring him back. I need to think about it. There aren't many other options. But his inability, and I mean this as a pun, but it's very true. His inability to, what I'll say, stand tall in the pocket is really showing up more and more. I mean, he doesn't see, he's ducking, he's trying to look over, he's holding the ball too long. And frankly, he's really bad late in the down too. We've always known he's, home run or check down, but there was a point there where he had hardly any intermediate attempts at all from 10 to 20 yards. Deep in the game, he had one attempt between 10 and 20 yards. Very little over the middle, very few in-breaking routes. Dump downs, screens, occasional moon ball, but the fact that he's so bad late in the down is disheartening. Again, I thought this loss was 90% on the offense against a terrible defense. There were some interesting things they did on defense, though, that I wonder if they'll keep going or if it's just an attempt to try to get Burrow on the ground. But there were quite a few third down opportunities where they only had one true defensive lineman on the field. Usually Hayward, but sometimes Benton or Ogunjobi. And they would play with three edge guys, kind of like a semi-NASCAR. I thought that was interesting. It's a nice wrinkle that I kind of liked. 10 straight games, though, with a turnover by the Steelers. They've lost 4 in a row. 10 straight games where they've turned the ball over. It's not their style. They really have a hard time overcoming that, even though that's the not Canada era, but still. Again, I just watched the TV copy like most of you did, but I do think they tried a lot more man-to-man, and Trice got the start. I tweeted out before the game, I hope Trice starts, not Pierre. And yeah, he had rough moments against great wide receivers, but I was really encouraged on first blush. A lot of man. And a lot of it against Jamar Chase. I mean, I don't care if you've helped or not. And Chase did some damage, but I came away initial blush encouraged with Trice. I mentioned this earlier. About 2/3 of the way through the game, the time of possession was 26 minutes to 13. And that's when I thought it was over. I mean, you can't do this anymore. And a lot of it was Burrow. He was amazing in this game. And he has been all year. And he's playing better than he ever has, which is really something. And it was kind of like Mahomes, he played a lot like Mahomes did last week, very similar. Ball came out really quick. When it didn't late in the down, he stung you. Man, he took a big time beating. To quote Tomlin, he made the routine plays routine as well as the extreme plays he made over and over. But there were probably 4 or 5 throws in the second half that I bet he wishes he had back. Also got his bell rung pretty well and got beat up over and over. We already talked about it, but these Pickens drops were critical. But it also showed that, and we've said this all year, this isn't late breaking news, but he can't be your only real weapon. Freiermuth, I thought, was really good in this game. I mean, that's something. Everything changed late in the game in the Steelers' favor. Renegade, play started getting crazy. Higgins was banged up, out of the game. Defense kept making plays pretty much from the second or third drive till the end. But then some of the play calls and clock management and Russell Wilson at the end of the game was really rough. I mean, he scrambles for a 2-yard gain instead of throwing it out of bounds. I mean, they were rookie stuff. And that wasn't on Tomlin. I know people, and rightfully so, give Tomlin a hard time with clock management, game management. That wasn't use of timeouts or when to punt, when not to. A lot of it was Wilson just making decisions that made no sense in terms of managing the clock and giving yourself a chance to win. And I didn't like how that was all handled at the end of the game at all. And Tomlin deserves some of that too. Don't get me wrong. But that's what you have. Probably by the time you listen to this, you'll know where they're going. Maybe not, who knows? But I have a feeling they're going to Baltimore. Going to Houston would be far more favorable. But the offense plays like this, I'm not sure it really matters. And yeah, they caught a little spark there for a while. But this is a much worse defense than the one they're going to play, Chargers or Houston, both of whom I might say are top 5 type defenses. And the way these offenses play, and it might not really matter. But I do think the defense deserves more credit maybe than a lot of you and other people want to give them. They played hard. They made plays against one of the best offenses in the league. So that's where we're at. I'll be back tomorrow. Take care.